Just want to remind you, this episode is presented by Prize Picks. Be sure to download the app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Well, everyone, the Indianapolis Colts have a massive game on Sunday against the Denver Broncos. And honestly, guys, I think this might be and might determine the Indianapolis Colts season the rest of the way. Let's get into it. All right, we are back. What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys, Cody and Derek, back with another one, guys. Derek, it feels like it's been a while, man, with the bye week and just busy schedules in general, but feels good to get back into the saddle of things a little bit, man, and talk about this. And what better game to talk about than, I would say, probably at this point, the most important game of the season for the Colts. So, man, how are you feeling? Off the bye now. We didn't have to stress for at least 1 week, but we're going right back into it, man. And this is a massive game for the Colts.
Yeah, you go from having a stress-free week to going into potentially the most stressful week of your entire season. It's preparing us for this moment, right? So, both of these teams, you're going to come in and you're going to have both these teams on a bye. They're both going to be at their best and hopefully as close to being healthy as humanly possible. So you're going to have a situation here where, we're going to see what this Colts team is made of. You're going to face a team that is on the inside looking to keep their spot, and you're the team that is on the outside looking in. And surely the odds are not in your favor as of right now, but this is the opportunity for the Indianapolis Colts to shock the NFL world and start putting themselves on the map. Because like you said, after this game, Indianapolis has no excuses to not make it in if they win this game. But like you said, it all comes down to this matchup.
Yeah, I know you shared a stat, Derek, when we went live last week. I would love for you to share that real quick because this is massive. I mean, this game is going to determine so much for the Colts' odds of making the playoffs. Now, obviously, you can't just say, okay, the Colts win this game, they're going to go 4-0 because every week is different no matter how, quote-unquote, bad your opponent is, right? So,
yep.
But regardless of this, in terms of the odds, let's kind of jump into this. So the Indianapolis Colts in this Denver game, Derek, take it away. I'll let you kind of do this because you have it on the screen here. But, man, the chances, I just know when we looked at it, it's completely pointing to the direction of this game is what it's really going to define the Colts season in a lot of ways.
Yep, absolutely. So as it currently stands, the Indianapolis Colts have about a 27% chance to make the playoffs going into this next matchup against Denver. Now, of course, if give or take a few percent, it really doesn't matter. But nevertheless, again, you have the situation where you're still on the outside looking in. Now, if the Colts do win this game against the Broncos, so we take this one, your odds jump by over 2.5 times what you had before. So it goes from a 27% chance to a 65% chance to make the playoffs from that point forward. Now, the reason it jumps so high is for a couple reasons. One, the Broncos have a much more tough schedule to end the year than the Indianapolis Colts do. And obviously, the Colts are favored to win in each game that they have coming up. So, they have the Titans, the Giants, and the Jags. And I believe that the Colts would be favored in every single one of those games going forward. Now, the Broncos, I don't think, are favored for half of their matchups going forward. They're going to have to face the Chargers. They're going to have to face the Cincinnati Bengals, who are still trying. And you got to face the Kansas City Chiefs to end the year. So if Denver loses one more of those 3 games and you have a situation where you beat Denver, then you have a situation where you finish with the same record and we end up with the tiebreaker over them in the head-to-head and therefore we would take that 7th seed from the Denver Broncos. Now, obviously, if we win out, then we don't have to worry about Miami behind us because we have the head-to-head on Miami, and we don't have to worry about the Cincinnati Bengals because they would still be a game behind us. So we don't have to worry about that. Now, obviously, if we take this away here and we go back to it, so you have a situation where if Denver wins, right, your odds go down to pretty much less than 10% of a chance to win. So,
Wow.
so it very much is a drastic difference. So right now your odds are currently sitting around 30%. And if you lose this one, your odds of it go down below 10%, right? Because if you were to get the chance at it, you have the situation where you have to hope that Miami doesn't win out the rest of the way, which definitely would be a very hard thing for them to do. But you would have to hope that Denver would lose at least 2 of their last 3 in order to do it. But even if they did that, they would end up having a situation where they would still have the head-to-head on us. So they would have to pretty much lose out in order for us to make it in at that point. So, obviously, Cody, you win this one, your odds of making the playoffs are pretty good as long as you can take care of business. But if you lose it, you can pretty much kiss your hopes of a playoff goodbye.
Right. And even, like you said, even if you win the remaining 3, I mean, let's just put that in there real quick. You know, even if you win the remaining 3, you lose against Denver, the odds still are not very good that you would make the playoffs, right? The odds are still
it's about the same as what they are right now.
Right. Even a little bit under what they are right now. 25% versus what, over 60% if you win. So, I mean, it's just massive. And again, Derek, I know you have 2 divisional games in there, but I mean, Denver's one of those teams that's right in there. But those other 2 teams that you'd be facing, you know, in your division, I mean, they're out of the playoffs. It doesn't really matter at that point for those teams. So, yeah, it's just a massive game to say the least for the Colts. And I mean, this is the game that really I think will define a lot for this franchise moving forward because, Derek, just imagine that, like the complete difference it would mean for this organization for the future of some of these guys who are in control, you know, going from, you know, a situation, Derek, where, you know, you get back to the playoffs with your own quarterback, everybody's excited, everybody's a little bit more encouraged. You know, you have a little bit more faith in who's running things a little bit more. I know still some people will say fire Chris Ballard, but you have a little bit more confidence. Okay, the track record's getting better with Chris Ballard the last couple of years. Yeah, last year you missed the playoffs. This year you make the playoffs. Okay, like the track record's starting to get back into it a little bit more. And, you know, even though there still are issues with this team, you know, you can say, hey, Chris Ballard believed that this team, you know, could get back to the playoffs or be really close to the playoffs, really compete. And they did that. Or you could have another situation, Derek, where if the Colts lose this, they miss out on the playoffs again. You say, how many years are we going to continue to do this with Chris Ballard, you know, helming it and seemingly no direction for this franchise? You know, you have your young quarterback, but you still have a lackluster roster in a lot of ways. You haven't won. You haven't made the playoffs since 2020. You know, you haven't won the division. Like all these questions will start coming back up again. All the evidence against Chris Ballard will pile up. And Derek, I know there's some people, and I know that we've talked about it too, that think Chris Ballard to be safe. But I think, Derek, Chris Ballard's seat will be determined by what happens this next week in the remaining 4 weeks. I really do believe that. I think it'll determine a lot. I'm not saying he's going to be outright fired, but I think it will really, in the eyes of Jim Irsay, really, you know, either help or hinder his view of Chris Ballard.
Well, the 2024 NFL season for the Indianapolis Colts is in full swing. And with that, wanted to share the sponsor of today's video, Prize Picks.
When it comes to Prize Picks, this is going to be a great way for you guys, especially, to check out some of the stuff that Prize Picks has.
You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You heard me right. Only 4 correct picks. You can win 100 times your money, guys, on Prize Picks. Be sure to sign up today and get $50 off instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So, for example, if you think that Michael Pittman Jr. is going to have over 80 yards this next week? Or do you think Jonathan Taylor is going to have another performance of 80-plus yards rushing? You might be sitting pretty good with where you feel like the Colts are right now.
So if you're looking specifically for the Colts stuff, that's definitely something you guys should check out. But if you're looking for, like me, more NFL stuff, there's all sorts of stats and stuff that you can check out and make your picks. And there's definitely guys that are very consistent, like Jonathan Taylor against the Houston Texans, that you really feel like you can probably feel pretty good about overall, right? And there's some other ones where you're like, I don't know if I would take the over on that. I don't know if I would pick them to hit that margin, right? So guys, be sure to go check out all that stuff on Prize Picks. It's only a couple examples. There's all the different odds that you could hope for when it comes to that for Prize Picks. So I highly encourage you guys go check that out, but definitely excited for this season. And hopefully you guys will be following along with us and everything with Prize Picks and what they do.
So be sure to download the app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Like I said, guys, it's a great way to continue to stay in with week to week life of the NFL, specifically with your favorite team, the Indianapolis Colts. So be sure to do that. Be sure to check out Prize Picks. And remember, Prize Picks, run your game.
Yeah, I mean, and who's to say, like, obviously when you have a situation, I mean, say Indianapolis does beat Denver, right? And gives you the chance. Who's to say the Colts don't lay a giant goose egg and lose at one of those games, those last few games to end the year? I mean, who's to say Jacksonville doesn't come back into our building and end our season right there where they left it off, right? Because, I mean, let's face it, does anyone have any real faith that the Indianapolis Colts are going to handle business against the Jacksonville Jaguars, even if they don't have Trevor Lawrence? Like, do we really have faith that the Indianapolis Colts can 100% secure a win over Jacksonville? That's 50-50. And of course, the Titans, those games are always close. Doesn't matter whether or not they're bad or not. Indianapolis always plays them tough. And the New York Giants, they are what they are. But I still think that we got the better edge on them. I mean, honest to God, I think that we have the best chance against the Giants outside of every other team that we have to face yet this year, even though all three of these teams are fighting for the number one overall pick right now. So, but obviously, yeah, when you look at what can come of this, of course, like you said, you lose this game against Denver, your season's pretty much over at that point. With 3 weeks still left in the year, and people are going to start wondering, like, is it time to blow things up? Because you just missed the playoffs once again. You haven't made the playoffs for 3 years, and the only time you made it the once with Phillip Rivers, that was with a different coaching staff, a completely different team, and a lot of different aspects to it. And now,
this will be year 4. You'll be going year 4 now of missing the playoffs if that happens.
Yeah.
The last time you won, a different head coach and a 40-year-old quarterback. It's been that long. It's been that long.
Yep. Yeah. And so, you're right. Like, I mean, I think you and I, we see it every day whenever we're on social media. We know that the fan base is tired of this. We know the fan base is just tired of not being consistently in the playoff picture, right? Because this is the Indianapolis Colts, right? View it how you want to as a small market team. This is a team that over the last 20 years has one of the best records in the NFL amongst any organizations in the NFL. And it is widely renowned as a extremely professional and smart organization that does a lot of great things, has had a lot of amazing NFL legends come through that building in the last 20 years. And, for the Indianapolis Colts now, you under this current regime that you have, you're tired of saying, "Oh, just give us one more year. Just give us one more year." Like it's different than if you're like, it's funny, Cody, because we talk about like somebody like Mike Tomlin. People were saying like, "Oh, Pittsburgh, they always squeak it out." That to Mike Tomlin's going into his 18th year now and has never had a losing season, right? Even those years when he barely squeaked it out, 9-7, 9-8, just barely making it, even if they did nothing for it in the end. But yet we have Steelers fans that are saying it might be the best idea to get rid of Mike Tomlin before obviously this year. But I mean, it's kind of the same boat, but but we've been in a way worse scenario in the last decade than the Steelers were with Mike Tomlin. And yet their fans were wanting to push him out the door because they thought that there was a possibility to get even further. But yet here we are. We're knocking on the door to get into the playoffs, but we can't handle business. So something's got to happen, or else the fan base is going to start losing interest.
Yeah, and I think this game will largely determine, where the fans are with Chris Ballard. I mean, some fans are already out. Like,
yeah.
I think you and I are pretty like, yeah, we could see Chris Ballard being fired, and we'd be totally okay with that. But I think the big thing to remember, Derek, is whose eyes matter. Like, whose opinion matters, and that's Jim Irsay. That's the biggest thing. Jim Irsay's opinion. If you go in another time, and even if you beat Denver, like you said, you beat Denver and you go and lay a goose egg, how many years are you going to stand for this? And like you said, the fans are very vocal online. They're not quiet at this point. And if it continues on where you miss the playoffs again, the fans are only going to get louder.
Yeah.
And those are the people, Jim, that honestly, like, those are the people that pay to come watch your football team. They support you. And if you're not going to listen to the fans in any capacity, when everybody sees it except for you, I don't know. Like, I think this is going to be big for Jim Irsay, and he can have a choice here if they do not succeed to either open his eyes or, frankly, hand the team off to his daughters, because it's getting to that point, Derek, where it's like, okay, like, this team has been mediocre for the past however many years, 8-9 years Chris Ballard has been here, and it's like it's about time that something changes for the better with this team, And if the Colts, and again, they very well could succeed. They could go 4-0. But Derek, I mean, we look at this team. They haven't been that this year. Like, they haven't been that. Let's be honest. Could they be that? Sure, they could. But they haven't been that. I mean, they lost to Jacksonville, for goodness sakes. They almost lost to New England, who's one of the worst teams in the NFL. So, like, they're not like this team that's going out there and a perennial, contender. Like, they're not this year. I mean, they have so many issues, especially on the defensive side of the ball as of recent. You have question marks at, some of your skill positions. There's a lot of holes on this roster, Derek. And I don't know if it's going to be enough to overcome when it comes down to it, when you're facing a team like Denver, even when you have to go on the road and, play a team like the Giants, or, just do what you need to do. Win the game that you're not favored in, and then finish out and win the games you are favored in. I don't know about you, Derek, but I struggle with how this team has looked this year to have confidence that they can do that. Now, I hope they prove me wrong. It's just hard for me to say that looking at how this team has looked consistently this year, looking how this roster is very flawed and how it's constructed. I don't know. Hopefully they win. Hopefully we look like idiots in a couple weeks, but it's hard, man. It's hard for me to just say yes and have 100% confidence this team's going to do it, because we've seen this team give us confidence before or have opportunities before and fall flat on its face under Chris Ballard multiple times. I mean, 2021, clearly 2022, the entire season. And then last year, you had an opportunity and you blew it. So I'm kind of to this point where I'm like, I don't have any faith until this team gives me a reason to have faith. That's kind of where I stand with this team. And so all that to say, I rambled for a second, but all that to say, the biggest question mark is, if this season doesn't finish out the way that you want, does Jim Irsay open his eyes and actually make a move? I don't know. He needs to, but will he?
Yeah, we'll see. And, it all comes down to, and a lot of it's going to come down to this game. The stakes. this team, whether or not Colts fans want to agree to it or not, this Colts team has every ability to win this game in Mile High City against the Denver Broncos. But believe what you want to. The Indianapolis Colts are good enough to beat Denver. Denver is not an elite team. They have some good numbers. They have some good players. They're coached very well, and their young quarterback is figuring it out. But this is a team that's also starting to figure it out, at least from the offensive side and at least from the quarterback position. So you got to put all your chips on the table here. You got to.
And I hope
if you don't, it's done for.
And I hope they prove me wrong. I just hope. But if the good majority of the season is any indication, they haven't proven that they can be a consistent team from a week-to-week basis. Now, again, they have the bye week, so hopefully they were able to refocus, get back to where they need to be, and they can play some better complementary football the rest of the way as they look to make a push here for the playoffs. But yeah, I think that'll do it, guys, for our look here at this game. Obviously, a massive one for the Indianapolis Colts against the Denver Broncos. I mean, really, this is the season for the Colts in a lot of ways, and it would take a lot if the Colts lost this game to actually be able to get into the playoffs. So Colts have it all in their opportunity here, Derek. They all have it right in front of them. It's in their hands. Can they do it? We will see. But, guys, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, all that good stuff, notification bell, turn all that on. That'll do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, guys, go Colts.